My name is Jennifer Campbell, and I am a superintendent and recruiter with the Canada Border Services Agency. Very thankful to be here today. I'm situated in New Brunswick in the beautiful traditional territory of the Wolastoqey people, and I'm joined by my colleague Crystal Topping. Crystal is our Regional Indigenous Affairs Advisor in the Atlantic region with the CBSA. And we're going to just spend a few minutes sharing some information about the CBSA with you. Raymond, I want to thank you as well for sharing your beautiful song with us. So the Canada Border Services Agency is basically the front line of defense for our country. We welcome returning Canadians, visitors, tourists, people coming to work in Canada. We're processing work permits, study permits, and visitors coming to our country. We facilitate commerce as well. We protect the economic prosperity of the country. On the flip side, we also protect the country against risks of terrorism, risks of organized crime, things that are going to hurt our Canadian society, such as drugs, guns, and anything that will bring any harm to Canadians. So that's what we're there for. We're also very proud to be acting on behalf of the Public Health Agency of Canada and ensuring that people are quarantined when they come into Canada. We're facilitating the entry and release of the COVID-19 vaccines right at the moment. So we're doing some really exciting things that we're really proud of, and we would love to have you come and help us. So the CBSA has lots of exciting careers. I personally am a recruiter for Uniform Border Services officers, and I can share a little bit of information about that with you. We're committed to hiring more Indigenous officers, so we accept applications from Indigenous people at any time. I accept them by email, and then we start the process of assessing the candidates. And when you go through our process and are successful in all the steps, there is a job waiting for you at the end. So the basic requirements to apply to CBSA is that you need a high school diploma, a driver's license without restrictions, and you need to be a Canadian citizen. We're then going to invite you to write our online officer trainee entrance exam. It's a multiple choice test, 132 questions. You have 2.5 hours to do it. Once you're successful on that, we'll invite you to an interview. Upon completion of the interview, then you're going to start getting invitations to all the assessments, which consist of a psychological assessment, a Health Canada medical doctor appointment. We're going to do our security clearance, and the candidate has to provide us with proof of completion of a pair test, as well as proof of completion of the 2 firearms safety courses, non-restricted and restricted. Then, after the selection process and meeting all of the assessments, we'll invite you to our college, which is in Rigaud, Quebec. It's an 18-week in-residence course normally. With COVID, we've made some adaptations. And that is where you learn the almost 100 laws and regulations that we enforce at the border. You'll learn how to use your duty firearm. You'll learn all the defensive techniques. And when you graduate, you'll be posted somewhere across Canada. We're a national law enforcement agency, the second largest law enforcement agency in Canada. And the postings, are done at the beginning of your training so that when you graduate, you're off to your posting. And I always like to share that once you find a place that you love, we'll never ask you to leave. And we don't move people every 5 years or anything like that. You can stay at that one location for the entire term of your career. And I know for us in Atlantic Canada, that's important. And if you aren't happy at your location, after a few years, you can ask for a deployment to another location. So those are for full-time officers. We do hire student border services officers. To apply to that process, you need to apply from August to November for the following summer. So at this point in the year, we've already hired our student border services officers for summer of 2021. But I encourage everybody to look for our poster in August of 2021 to be employed as a summer student border services officer. We fast track our summer students into full-time border services officers by allowing them to skip the interview. If they've done well and you have an assessment from your manager, that's forwarded to us, and then you skip the interview, and a lot of your assessments have already been done. So it's a real good way after 4 months of working as a summer student to be fast tracked into a full-time officer. So that's the process to join the CBSA as an officer. I am going to turn it over to my colleague Crystal, who can share some information with you about non-uniformed summer student positions. And Crystal, over to you.
Hi. Hi, everyone. So my name is Crystal Topping. I am the Regional Indigenous Affairs Advisor for the Atlantic region. I work for the Indigenous Affairs Secretariat within the CBSA. A key mandate of the Indigenous Affairs Secretariat is to address the Many Voices, One Mind report of 2017. So this is a report that was written to address the representation, recruitment, and retention and promotion of Indigenous peoples within the federal government. We identified a fairly low representation of Indigenous peoples within the CBSA. So we recognize it's important to retain Indigenous employees and students because Indigenous peoples in Canada have a unique lived experience, which is very important in including within our workforce to ensure our workforce is diverse and inclusive. CBSA has identified diversity and inclusion as a valued priority, and the IAS, or the Indigenous Affairs Secretariat, works to review and evaluate the agency's policies, regulations, communications, and training, and provide Indigenous considerations. So you may ask, why pursue a career in CBSA? And the agency has many different avenues for career opportunities, from administrative roles, communications, IT, sciences, human resources, as well as law enforcement. I am Anishinaabe Kwe, originally from Treaty 1 territory in Manitoba. I am a transplant to Mi'kmaq, and I grew up in Jabuktuk, and I am part of the urban Indigenous community here. I worked at the Friendship Center in my university age as a youth worker, and I started with CBSA as a student in an administrative role. I later became an officer, and now I hold a position as the Regional Indigenous Affairs Advisor. I think that Indigenous youth and students should know that the CBSA is actively addressing its policies and practices in respect of Indigenous peoples and seeking to bring culture in. We currently are rolling out the delivery of Indigenous bundle presentations and Kairos blanket exercise to all staff within the agency. I personally take a lot of pride in the work that I do, and unfortunately I can't stay for the whole, the entirety of today, so I may not be in the breakout room later, but if anybody does have any questions for me personally, I'm happy to share my contact, and you can reach out to me by email or by phone. Thank you.